Welcome to Horror Melee,
a podcast born of a group of people who love to talk and debate horror.
Every episode, one of us picks a movie to review, and the rest of us must either suffer or enjoy that pick.
Turn your brain off and enjoy.
On this episode of Horror Melee, I'm your host, Holly, and with me today I have Stephanie.
Hey.
And Patrick.
LLC.
Hey. LLC.
Today, if you haven't guessed, we're going to be talking about the found footage film, both films, Hell House LLC and Hell House LLC 2, The Abaddon Hotel. Very long title.
Not to be confused with the Abandoned Hotel, but
Yes.
Abaddon Hotel.
Let's talk about instead of doing them both together, we'll talk about the first one. Then I have a specific question I want to ask you both, and then we'll talk about the sequel. Sound good? All right.
Awesome.
Hell House LLC is a found footage film that is shot as a documentary. The film follows a group that is planning on creating a haunted house attraction in an abandoned hotel. Combined with interviews from academics and witnesses, the footage reveals the strange, mysterious events that lead up to the tragic deaths of 15 people. So I chose this movie because I'm starting to get into the Halloween spirit. And
at the time of this recording, it's still August, but all the pumpkin flavors have been released. Pumpkin beer, pumpkin spice latte, pumpkin spice, like everything. It's
Pumpkin-shaped Reese's.
Yeah, I love haunted houses. So when I saw this pop up in Shudder, I really, really wanted to check it out. And I really enjoyed it. I thought it was very creepy. And there were a lot of things in there that had me on the edge of my seat a lot. And I liked that this was more of a documentary style rather than just you have some people in the beginning and they watch the found footage throughout the entire film. And that's really all it is. So I thought it lent to the realness of the story. So I really enjoyed it. What'd you guys think?
The first time I watched this, I fell asleep through it. I think I had too much to drink. And when I watched it again, I was totally incorrect in what I thought had happened. And the second time I watched it, I actually really liked it. I was actually paying attention. It definitely did a good job of keeping me focused. They had a lot of good classic scares and a lot of good scary visuals that I'm totally a sucker for. You know, like I know it's not real. I know it's a guy in a creepy clown costume, but I mean, we've all been there where we're like, what's down at the bottom of the stairs, you know? Or, you know, the classic, like, the lights are out and weird shadows and you're like, what is it? So my imagination gets the best of me. So they did a super good job with some creepy visuals. And overall, I really enjoyed it. The first one. The original LLC.
Yeah. Very confused by the name. Don't know why they added LLC in. Just call it Hell House. Don't need to add the LLC. It just, I don't know. That just threw me off from the beginning. But I did enjoy lots of parts of this movie. I thought they did a really good job of like taking very classic parlor tricks and making them spooky. And clowns are scary in general, but that clown mask they had in there was terrifying. But I do think the movie was plagued with a lot of kind of hindrance. Like, story starts picking up, the tension starts building, and then they add something in that takes it away, and then they go back into it, which, you know, it's found footage, so however they decide they found it, you know, trying to tell a real story, quote, quote.
However they found it.
Yeah. But I think it, like, there was quite a few parts where it just took me out of, like, the actual spooky story, and then some of the spooky tricks they did, like, they did the scene with a strobe that I just felt like the strobe scene was so poorly done because the strobe was moving every 3 seconds, and it looked weird watching. It may have looked different when they were filming it, but stuff like that kind of took me out of the movie. But overall, it was enjoyable to watch.
Yeah, the first time I saw it, I was confused by it's like near the end where they start talking about, oh, you need to hear this information, and yeah, I didn't understand why that was in there. They didn't really address it, and it did feel like it took you out of it. But I was reading a little bit about the DVD that's out. There's a director's cut, and the explanation about what Alex knew, all of that was cut.
It's so funny. It's so funny you bring that up because I was reading something. I read a lot of little articles about this movie, and there was only a handful that didn't praise it, which was also really weird to me. Like, people lose their shit over this movie, which I'm indifferent about. But I found an article about when he wrote this script, before he could go to final production, he had to get it approved by the producers, which were his family. So,
all his family members,
yeah.
like 5 family members helped produce this, which represent family. Gotta love that.
But I just imagine his family members that were producing this were much older and coming from such a different time than what he was maybe trying to do. So I was wondering, like, I'm glad you cleared that there's a director's cut, because I was like, there had to have been some lost stuff in this overall from the final production to what he imagined.
One of the biggest criticisms that I saw was that the build up to the basement scene, there was never a good payoff, and a bunch of, I don't know how much, but parts of that was cut out. I think they filmed it with a green screen, and because of budgetary restraints, they weren't able to do the visual effects like they wanted to. And then later they had somebody do the visual effects, so the added footage is on the DVD, the director's cut.
Is it
Oh, that's cool.
the gates of hell busting open?
Yeah, I hope the green screen was good in that director's cut.
Yeah.
But that's funny you say that, because I was just imagining, just after reading that whole script fiasco kind of thing, like, how was his family involved just financially, and then they were like, well, we want to put our own creative control in it too, or was it always, you know, we have this idea together, but we'll finance it? You know what I mean? Like, how much of it was a group creative thing compared to just, we're financing it, go our way?
Yeah. Yeah, I when I was doing some research, unfortunately I couldn't find too much information about, like, the making of this and, like, what went into it.
All I could find when I was doing research in this movie was just reviews praising it.
Yeah.
It was so hard to find a negative review about this or anything, really. It was all just praising it, which kind of blew my mind.
Maybe Andrew Tully is real, and he wants you to come visit not the Hell House LLC, but the Haunting at Waldorf to collect more souls.
Yeah, the Haunting at Waldorf LLC, you mean.
Definitely. But earlier you had mentioned that this had a lot of classic horror movie things in there. And I made the same note, and I said, like, that having an old piano, you know that's going to come into play. Like, it's going to be some spooky stuff later. And like the static on the radio and like classic bumps in the night. It did really well building up tension.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, my God. So I clicked on a tab because I have The Haunting at Hell House on the Waldorf. I had that tab open, and then like I was going to click to a tab to an interview, but I clicked to a different tab, and then audio happened on that tab, and it was like a crescendo. So it was one of those things where I was like, for a second, because you were talking about static on the radio for a second, I was like, what the fuck? What? No! I was like, oh my God. Oh, but it was just, I opened up a tab became active, and it's not haunted at my apartment, so
No.
That you know of.
it definitely like
I bet Holly's
right now.
place and my place could be haunted, because
Yeah.
I bet my house was built in 1941.
This
When
is
was your house?
1896.
Oh, your house is for sure fucking haunted.
I know, right?
There's a Victorian woman in your bathroom right now.
Well, years ago, Victor would talk about like the shadow in his room or the woman over my bed. I was like, can you not?
Wait. So like, not to derail, but I'm like, how did you handle that? Like, was there a shadow? Like,
You're just like, it's me watching you at night.
I don't
are
know.
you the woman over his bed?
I put some crystals in there. And I was like, all right, well, you let me know if that shadow comes back.
Did it come back?
He said it a couple more times, and then he said that it was okay, but
I mean, not all spirits are bad.
right. Yeah.
I mean, if there's something we learned from Haunting of Hill House, that creepy, spoiler alert, creepy shadow with a broken neck was actually the same person, like, in the future.
Watching herself. So
Yeah, watching herself.
if you ever figure out, then you know you're going to die. And that's kind of scarier than most ghosts, right? Knowing your death.
Yeah. So I want to know your favorite scares. Patrick, did you have one or two favorite scares?
I will tell my two favorites. One, because I was like, oh, this is spooky. This is good. And the second, just because I was like, why are you doing this? The first one, that first time, like, the clown's like coming up the stairs and they're like kind of going down, and then it's down there and then it's gone. I felt that was really good, because that's like very classic, easy, like it's a moving doll. The doll's not there, and then it's there, you know, and the clown's like on the stairs and they tap it on the head. I felt that scene was very, very well done. I think that's also the scene where the piano plays. I could be wrong.
Yeah, because they're looking for Paul.
Yeah, and they're like, are you fucking with us, Paul?
Yeah.
I felt like that was a very good, tense scene. And then the other one, which I just found very funny, was when Paul sees the woman in his room and he hides under the blanket like a little kid. If I saw a dead-like woman in my room, I'm going to shit myself. And I probably would freeze and not go under the blankets. But at the same time, I would never go in the blankets because it's a fucking blanket. It's not going to do anything. I'm going to stand and try to either fight and get taken or just freeze and be taken. It's the only two options I have.
But that's the power of the blanket.
I just felt like it just felt, and also it felt so, it was the one scene that felt so out of place with all the other scares. It's like, oh, we have this one scene that we're going to kind of make it like The Ring, where it's coming up through the blanket. And I just was like, it just felt out of place when you have like clown mannequins and all these props in a house and piano playing, and you're doing kind of like ghostly kind of things, and then you bring the dead woman into it. Which it just like, it didn't tie in to me. Even at the end of the movie when I watched it, I was like, oh, okay, this is why they're doing it. But like that woman still didn't tie in to it for me. I don't know. It just felt weird. But him going under the blanket with his camera is just so funny to me. Like, you had time to bring the camera under you, which is like a big piece of equipment, but no. Those were my two.
Yeah, no, but that, like, the woman was so good, but it had no connection to the story. You know, like in the beginning, they talk about a lady and her daughter going missing from this hotel. Like, the clown makes sense because that's one of their props, and that clown was creepy as fuck.
It was the only creepy prop they had in the entire house.
But yeah, I wish it was either a younger looking gal or an older looking gal. I wish it was someone that they reference in the beginning of the movie when they're giving the history of the Abaddon Hotel. There was a lot of disconnected moments in the movie, and I'm curious because I'm like, you have so many obvious, like you mention easy things to bring back into the movie, but you don't use that. Like, why didn't they use a young woman or an old lady? You know,
or why not just use one of the cloaked figures standing in the back in the darkness? You know what I mean? Like, you bring those in towards the end of the movie, but you could have slowly revealed them a little more. I'm glad you agree with me on that scene. It just felt so out of place in the rest of the movie. But
I agree that it was a good scene, to have something there, and then you see it in the shadow, and then he wakes up, and then you see it, and then he goes under his blanket. It's spooky for sure.
That scene creeped me out because I did that a lot as a kid, hiding under
in
the
people's
blankets.
Room? Oh.
Well, the whole hide under the blankets, and I would be terrified to call out to my dad to come into my room because I had a scary dream and I needed my dad with me. And I would just lie there terrified. I would hide under the blankets. So that brought me back to being a little kid. But before that happened, when Paul wakes up and he turns on the camera and he's lying down on his stomach facing the camera, and you see a shadow of the woman behind him in the doorway. At that moment, I was like, I am so glad my couch is up against a wall, because I got so creeped out. I could feel somebody watching me, and it was, yeah.
And that is classic scares.
Yeah.
The what's behind you that you don't know is there, but your imagination and your anxiety is there something there?
Yeah, and if I turn around, what am I gonna see?
That slamming of doors, bangs on the ceiling, something swaying that shouldn't be moving. Those are such classic little parlor tricks to me that I love when they're done correctly.
Because they happen in real life.
Yeah.
Because you do hear bangs and weird sounds, or drafts and stuff make doors close, and a creaky door, it's...
Yeah, I hear 3 knocks at 3 a.m. every night.
So we get a little history of what happened in the hotel from what was she? She was she was gonna play the girl that was chained up in the basement.
Melissa.
Yes, thank you.
Yes.
She was talking about
Andrew
Tully.
Tully.
Thank you.
Yeah.
The owner of the hotel. He was supposedly the head of a cult, and a woman and a child went missing in the hotel. They were last seen at the hotel, but he was cleared. He has records saying that they left, and he wound up hanging himself in the dining room of the hotel. And it had it been abandoned since then? And it took place in the 80s. What did you think of the backstory of the hotel?
I think the backstory of the hotel was, once they talked about it, you can kind of see them going into this kind of satanic cult idea. So I did like it because it is a little different from a lot of the found footage that I have seen. So I was like, oh, okay, I like this direction that's going. But the guy killed himself, so I was like, okay, he's the one he must have either sacrificed his soul and there's just a demon in the house. So it made me a lot more interested in the movie.
Yeah, I love a good satanic cult angle. It also lends to it why no one wanted to touch it or go around, want to be involved in it for so many years. And, a satanic cult, they do like weird shit. So when they walked in the beginning, they're like, all these tables are like toppled over. At least to me, I'm always being like, ooh, what's happening? I'm trying to figure it out, trying to fill in like the gaps before they're told. So it lends a lot of potential of what could happen. And come on, like, satanic cults, demons, like classic, avenue to like do anything, just blame it on like a demon possession.
There was a part where I forgot who had mentioned that Tully picked the town to make this hotel because of the name.
Mm-hmm.
And I did a little research because I was like, okay, well, what does this name mean? And I read that Abaddon is the name of a demon that guards the gateway to hell. The Hebrew term Abaddon appears in the Bible as both a place of destruction and an angel of the abyss. In the Hebrew Bible, Abaddon is used with reference to a bottomless pit. In the book of Revelation, an angel called Abaddon is described as the king of an army of locusts.
True homie. So if you want to enter hell, you gotta talk to him.
So Supernatural, my favorite TV show. In season 8 and 9, they highlighted a demon named Abaddon who was extremely strong and played by a wonderful lady, Elena Huffman. And she was a demonic force to be reckoned with. So
that's awesome.
Yeah. When I saw that this was named after like Abaddon and stuff, I was like, ooh, Supernatural.
I really want that on my business card. A demonic force to be reckoned with. LLC.
It's our new tagline for Horror Melee.
Yeah.
Steph, I think you had a question.
So as far as found footage, because we've all seen a variety of found footage films, and how did you guys enjoy, dislike the camera movement of a found footage film of this one?
Yeah, found footage the shakiness has never really bothered me. There have been a few that I can't remember for good reason that have been too shaky. And I have a good tolerance for it, but it was to the point where I don't know what's going on visually. But I didn't dislike the shakiness because there was a lot of running and a lot of, because it was so dark, that mixed with the running made a lot of it was just like dark. It looked like, somebody was holding it against their shirt or something. It didn't really bother me because I noticed that the scenes where something creepy was going on, they were pretty long. They were like minutes long. So when they were running around and things got a little tough to see, it didn't feel long. It didn't feel like it was happening a lot. So it didn't really bother me.
I did read the original take. What they wanted to do with this film would be more stationary, longer shots. And they did some test footage and they didn't like it, so they decided to do those, like what you just talked about, those longer, just running around single shots with the camera, which I think worked out much better for the film. Mm-hmm. I don't have any issues with like this handy cam found footage style, but I do have an issue with when it becomes too dark and too shaky, like it did a lot of times in this film during scary parts. That you can't see anything, and then the added on fake glitches I find so annoying. It takes you out of the moment because, like, sure, you could be using When did this come out? 2000.
2016, 2015. But apparently it was filmed in 2009.
Okay, so 2009, you're probably using a DV, like a mini DV tape, or a digital. DV tapes, you're going to get some wear and tear on them, sure. Digital, not really. And you're not going to get this, like this weird, multicolored glitch. It always just takes me out of the film.
Those were the demonic forces, Patrick.
It's just not, I don't know, it's just not going to happen. And you can tell it's like added in post. And so that takes me out a lot. And some parts they used it pretty heavily on.
Yeah, they did.
Which I did not like. Another thing was like, I'm sure there was stuff in the background they wanted us to see, but we couldn't see because of how shaky and dark the scenes were. Also bothered me, but it kind of makes it more realistic with found footage, so it's like a double-edged sword.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. The like ending scene in the basement, which everything was like, building up to. Even after watching it a few times, it's hard to see what happened. Other things that was a little challenging is when everyone's talking over each other. I feel like I'm missing someone's comment that like is important to the story.
Mm-hmm.
So there was good editing and really good scenes, but then there were definitely some sloppy scenes that definitely disconnected and like made me like drop off from the story.
Yeah, and one thing that surprised me, because like I said earlier, like this movie is praised a lot, and one thing it's praised on is cinematography. And cinematography is how obviously a shot set up and everything like that, but it's also how a shot makes you feel. And sometimes the shakiness and the darkness was so confusing, I didn't feel anything. Like wasn't scared, it just took me out, and it kind of killed the tension of it. You know what I mean?
Whoa. This was praised on its cinematography?
No. I read a lot of articles praising it, and a lot of the articles talked about its cinematography for being a handy cam.
Okay. Footage.
And some of it I do agree with. Like, if you found footage and the acting's shitty, like, no one in real life's acting, right? So it's like, it's probably just a real situation. So I do agree with some of the aspects of these articles I read, but the one that kind of just threw me off was cinematography for a handycam found footage movie.
Yeah, I was like, they have some really good shots. And
yeah, they did.
Most of the actors were super great. Like, Paul deserves an award. Yeah. He was great. I believe Tony, Alex is great. Sarah was mostly great. Mac, on the other hand, I was like, just, sir, like, you're not even...
Mac looked like the Mad TV guy.
Just, I don't know what else he's doing. I looked him up on IMDb, just a couple other roles, but take a few more classes, sir. You're very much like not believable.
Oh. All right, so they bring in the actors, right? I know the big guy's going to be the scary clown. Melissa's the girl that's chained up. Whatever happened to the guy that was supposed to be dressed up as the clown?
Okay, so they had a character show up with the rest of the actors, and then that's the guy that they were like, he was the clown, and then he ran out and he died 9 days later. But then they had But then they had another guy who showed up, and they're like, he can also be a scary person, and he did the weird eye stuff. So I'm guessing he was a different person. I'm guessing he was just an additional actor.
I thought that was the same person.
Yeah, I thought that was the same person.
It's very confusing because the guy with the, like, why would he show off his creepy eye thing if he was going to wear a mask the whole time?
Oh, you're right. He's the one that he found at the gas station.
Yeah, because because the original clown, like, they were like, he came with the other two chicks. But then my guess is they just had additional actors. Or maybe I'm incorrect and the movie is just confusing.
So did he run out of the basement at the end of the movie and left the girl in chains, right? That's the guy that ran out of the basement? Okay. I was so confused because I was like, was that just one of the sitting clowns that ran out?
No. It was the guy who was, because I think what happened in the basement is the gates to hell opened up and these cloaked figures were appearing, and instead of being a hero and unlocking this girl from the chain, and also that chain is like, she had both her wrists in there. Like, how did that even open? I don't even understand that whole locking mechanism she was in.
I don't know. She was literally like, if I was in a haunted house and one of the actors like, this is not part of the show, please help me. Like, I'd be confused at first, but then I'd assess the situation and be like, no, she's really not part, like, she's really freaking out. I'm going to help her, right?
Yeah.
I've been to enough haunted houses, and, like, if they get that scared and they're like, please, please.
But I think that's the scary part, and the beauty of this movie is, and so many, like, haunted house movies are, is it real or isn't it real? You know, you think you're being entertained, and it's actually not, you know, or it's all entertainment.
One thing I do want to talk about, though, is for being like New York's top haunted house for like the last years, they did not put on a very good haunted house. Did anyone else feel like it was just like, I could have gone to, you know, Halloween Spirit and just got more scared from the props there than some of the stuff they had in the house?
I was also confused about, because I was like, the guy who was the bartender in the YouTube video, he was like, what do you want? Get out of here. I was like, they said they had all these actors and they highlighted like 3 actors. The 2 people who died, you know, were in the basement. Like, did the other actors just run out? And we didn't see many actors. I mean, in the video, we saw the video of a person go from the very outside beginning of the haunted house through the haunted house to the basement, which is like, they were going to walk through the basement and then out. Like, that was it. Like, this was like a 5-minute haunted house. And there were, after the hostess at the beginning, there was one person, the bartender, and then the people in the basement. Like, 4 actors total, which is not enough for a proper haunted house.
Yeah, I couldn't figure out the theme of the haunted house either.
Creepy stuff?
Well, yeah. I mean, you're just like, you go to that basement, there's like satanic writings on the wall, and then 3 clowns sitting there. So it's like, is it a satanic clown massacre? Like, is that what we're going with?
That too. Like, that creepy clown was creepy as fuck. But like, what the fuck did those clowns have to do with a girl who, I don't know why she had to have her dress scissored open. That was totally unnecessary.
That was very unnecessary. Yeah,
so unnecessary. And I also wanted to make a comment. I'm like, that was a really weird scene that should have been cut, and everything else should have been added, because we didn't need to see someone be like, oh, I'm gonna like awkwardly cut your like shirt open now and like show you like primming it. But they didn't show anybody else putting makeup on or putting costumes on, but
just her.
That was like, and one of my questions was, I wanted to be like, a bunch of dudes did this? Is that like what dudes do? Like, I know that's like a dude thing, but that's like very dude to do.
And you know what's one thing we haven't discussed? Sarah's whole interview process with the documentary people. Like, so at the end of the movie, she's like, oh yeah, you gotta go, you know, I'm gonna go take a nap in my room. It's in 2C, but you guys should go check out the house. Well, we can't get in. No, go check out the house. Get in there now. I would probably go check out the house for sure. But if I saw 2C and she was like, oh, I'm staying in room 2C, that's the point I would leave.
Absolutely.
But right? Whoa, Patrick, but wait. So when they went down to their, my guess is they interviewed her in their hotel room or in a meeting space situation in the actual hotel.
Yeah, Marriott conference room.
Because like, yeah, in the Oak Room.
LLC.
Yeah.
So my guess is they just assume they're all staying in the same hotel, because she's like, oh yeah, I'm in room 2C. I'd be like, I mean, Patrick, you and I have stayed in a billion hotels in our travels. And I'm sure, Holly, you're like, my room doesn't have a letter in it. What does that mean for you? Like, you tell me your room is 2C. I'd be like, that doesn't make sense.
Yeah, are you in the control room? Like,
yeah. Are you in ballroom? Are you in ballroom 2C? Like, what does that mean? And then they go to the front desk, and I don't know. Anytime I've tried to get someone's room number from the front desk, they would not give it to me. They could call that person and talk to me, but no one gives. Like, oh yeah, they're in this room, or like, hey, let me tell you what room they're in.
Unless you're me in Bangkok. that happened to me. But yeah, so at the end of the movie, Sarah gets them to go to her room, which is in Hell House, LLC, and they go into the room, and she's sitting on the bed, and then the cloak figures appear, right? And then they all attack. So did the one guy who's editing and looking through the footage, Mitchell, did he go back into the house to get the camera?
Well, I think this kind of...
Because it's on the movie. So did he go back in and grab
You're right,
that?
yeah.
Well, when we get into Hell House, LLC, the Abaddon Hotel, the sequel...
LLC.
all of this footage magically ends up in the hands of the right people to make it public.
Yeah, we'll talk about that.
True.
I will say, talking about Sarah, like, all the scenes where she's, like, being weird, that never really turned into anything. I thought that was going to be something more at the end of the movie. Like, she was going to be a bigger player to get people to do stuff. I was thinking, it didn't make any sense, but was the point of her in those scenes was that she was going to be the one person that was brought back? Because what we learn is during this movie, as Sarah's being interviewed and she provides these tapes magically that this documentary is created from, that she's actually a ghost and she died on the day where everybody else died at this catastrophe. But we see scenes of her being like possessed and doing weird stuff. I just thought that was going to lead up to something more, and it didn't.
And if they can possess people, why not just bring them all to the basement and take them there?
Where's the fun in that, though?
Why dress up as a clown?
They need a challenge.
I guess if you've been down there since the 80s, you've been bored.
Sarah, you okay? Sarah, you okay?
Alex didn't know.
Don't do this, mine. Sarah, look. Sarah, you're fine. You're fine. You're okay. Sarah, you're fine. Sarah, you're downstairs. You're fine. You're fine. Hey, you're fine. It's okay. Jesus fucking Christ. It's okay. What the fuck, dude? It's okay. Let's get the fuck out of here. Come here. You're alright. Oh, fuck! What the fuck? Mac. What the fuck was he? He was just fucking here.
Guys, let me go upstairs.
And another thing that like bothered me in the movie was Alex always tries to shut someone up when they talk about the history of the house. As soon as someone started talking about that, I'd be pestering them for the history of the house.
Oh, for sure.
I'd be relentless until they gave it to me. Or it's 2009. You got a phone. Just Google it.
Well, all their phones were screaming at them.
He did have a weird... His phone looked like a Roku remote. Anyone else notice
Seriously?
that?
What was that? Like, it's like the back end of the phone fell off. And I was like, I feel like What kind of phone does anybody remember the kind of mobile device they had in 2009?
Yes. And it had internet on it. I mean, they had some weird Nokia phone, which the back doesn't fall off of those. So maybe I don't know. Samsung's first phone? I don't know. Prepaid burner phone. Let's rate this.
How about we rate by creepy clowns?
Okay.
I am going to give this 3.5 creepy clowns. I really enjoyed the tension and the scares, and I do agree with some of the issues that we had brought up, like it being dark and stuff what you had mentioned before about people talking over each other. And unfortunately, I think that the story does suffer a little bit with that bit of character development getting cut. Nothing to where it makes a huge difference in the movie, but like we mentioned before, there's a scene where you kind of get taken out of it because it's confusing, it doesn't really fit. So, but overall, I really enjoyed this. I think I want to get the director's cut on DVD because this is one of the few found footage movies that creeped me out, and I really enjoy watching it. Patrick, what are you going to rate this?
I'm in between 2.5 and 3 clowns right now. Because there's a lot of this I did enjoy, and then there's some parts that just, it took me out too much. I'm going to go with three creepy clowns. Because there is some very enjoyable parts of this movie. Some pretty good scares. I mean, don't go in looking for acting, and there's a ton of plot holes, but there's a lot of fun scares in this. And, it's a good different take on a lot of the found footage, which I appreciate it. So I'll give it 3. 3 creepy clowns.
Steph, how about you?
I'm also going to give it 3 creepy clowns. They succeeded with lots of spooky visuals. There was some really good acting in this one. It was better than I expected. There are definitely some plot holes and things that don't make sense. And overall, a really solid Halloween haunted house movie pick. Really good on the found footage. In the found footage horror genre, and definitely worthwhile to watch. I would totally recommend this for a good movie to watch for Halloween.
What about number 2?
Oh yeah, that's our discussion on the first one. But before we get into the sequel, I wanted to ask you both if you have heard of or been to or been interested in going to any kind of extreme haunts.
Explain or define extreme.
So the extreme haunts that I have heard about are the ones where you would have to sign a waiver because the people can touch you. There is one that is pretty notorious for going too far. It's called McCamey Manor.
Oh, yeah.
There was a documentary on Netflix. I watched it a while ago. I don't remember if it focused just on that one or if it had a few different ones in there.
So the documentary on Netflix is called Haunters, and it's really good because they do highlight McCamey Manor. Amongst a bunch of other ones, including Nightmare in New York City. And they'd also mention Universal, the whatever Universal does.
So, yeah, I had given some thought to seeing if I could actually make it through one, but definitely one that, you get a safe word and you're able to actually leave if it becomes too much. But
I think I could do it.
Yeah.
Because I'd be very scared, but at the end of the day I'd be like, no one is actually going to harm me here. They're going to grab me and stuff, but no one's actually going to harm me. None of this is actually real. I'd be terrified, and I may have a heart attack, but I think I could go into it and make it through. Because I don't imagine it'd be like, if they grab you, I imagine it's just like they come up and like tug your shirt or like maybe touch you or like start touching your head or something. They're not going to like pick you up and take you up 2 flights of stairs. You know what I mean? But that would be kind of cool though.
McCamey Manor looks like they started in like San Diego and then they had to move. And it looks like it took like it like the guy behind it, according to this documentary.
Victim Speaks Out is the first article I found.
Takes it to the next level. Like,
really?
It turns into straight up torture.
Yeah, definitely check out that documentary.
Yeah, it's called Haunters, The Art of the Scare. It's on Netflix. And they also talk about Nightmare NYC, which I've looked at, but I thought it was just like, oh, like when I used to live in New York City, I was like, oh, maybe I'll check that out. But it's like all dark and you go in by yourself. And I'm like, no thanks. I don't need that. I have enough like terror visions in my own head at night. So I don't need like an actual physical experience. But in the documentary of Haunters, Nightmare and like NYC looks like they touch you and it gets really weird.
I've always wanted to do that. Be touched in a haunted house.
Patrick, you should go to New York and check out Nightmare then.
Yeah, I would love to go to a haunted house, just like, because a lot of the ones you go to, it's like you walk through with a group and there's scary parts and people jump out at you and you get scared for sure. But I want that true fear.
Yeah, definitely.
My dad used to set up all the Not Scary Farm stuff in California for like their Halloween attractions and their like haunted houses. He was like, it was so fun because you could like, we'd set it up and we'd do the shows, but some nights we'd come in as actors and just get to scare people. And he's like, it was some of the most fun I've had in working anywhere.
Yeah, I helped produce a small haunted house in Dallas last year, and Patrick and
I went through it.
Yeah, Patrick and I have a friend Susie who is like doesn't like scary movies, but she volunteered and she absolutely loves scaring people. And it's so funny that people hate being scared, but people love scaring people.
That haunted house was so weird. I did not understand the Rocky Horror Picture Show.
It didn't make Patrick. It didn't make sense
because it's not scary. The Rocky Horror Picture Show is not scary.
But this is what happens when you have a client and you have somebody who has a beautiful idea and they have the property, so you have to like let them do their part, and then you're like, let me do my part. It's a compromise.
Speaking of Rocky Horror Picture Show, since that's like Halloween is the big time for Rocky Horror, my Halloween is always spent performing. So, and you know, it's just October is just a really busy month in general, and then you have all this stuff for prepping for the Halloween. And so last year I went to a haunted house, but it was after Halloween. And when I went, it was me and my friend. There was nobody else there. I think this was either the last night or next to last night. There was nobody there. We just walked straight up to the front of the line. And because there was nobody there, we didn't have people in front of us screaming already, so you know when something's going to happen. There were lots of times where we were like, oh, we're sure that's totally going to move. That's totally going to jump out at us, and nothing. So it was really great to just be all alone in this haunted house. It made it a lot of fun.
I want to try something that they're opening up. I'm sure they're going to do it in other cities too. But one of my friends from Vegas was telling me there's a place in Vegas where they do these VR situations where you actually have to walk through a maze, but you're in a full-on VR headset.
No.
So you can't hear, and it's all visual. And they're doing a Halloween thing, and I would love to go through that because I've been through a scary VR when you're like in a like you have to go find this demon in this old Victorian mansion, but it wasn't like that scary. But this new one, apparently there's like a part where you walk through hell and you're walking through a really hot room with like heat lamps all over you, so you really feel like you're going So I really want to try to find something like that this year
That'd
to
be
go
fun.
through.
I gotta say, that is awesome. I personally probably would not want to do that unless I got the behind the scenes tour first. Like, you are in it. You know, there's no escaping the experience.
Yeah.
It's funny though, when I did mine, like at one point I did take off the mask and you're just like in this gray foam hallway and there's like people like guiding you along.
I just imagine you take off the mask and there's somebody like reheating a hot pocket and they're like, you want to go
This is
that
the break
way.
room.
All right, so let's dive into Hell House, LLC 2, the Abaddon Hotel.
This movie lived up to the poor sequel tradition where it over-explained, it overcomplicated it, and there was just overacting and just so much unnecessary fluff.
Yeah.
I knew this movie was going to be bad the moment I saw the green screen that all three of the guests were sitting behind at
Morning Mysteries.
Morning Mystery, which is the only thing that would have made that better if it was the guy from Unsolved Mysteries.
Yeah.
And then you have the three guests, the psychic, Mitchell, the guy that edited the first movie, and I don't know, the politician who is so red, is just sweating so much in that scene. And they're just interviewing him, and I was like, this movie is not going to be great.
I felt like right out of the gate, it was too much too soon.
Mm-hmm.
They just started going into too much history of what happened, and there was like the first one had so much build up. It took its time. It really let the tension build, and this was like every scene there had to be like more exposition and like an info dump and footage that they had found that didn't really need to be there. Like there were Facebook live streams that they threw in there, and I mean they were okay on the creepy scale, but I didn't think that they were necessary.
I wasn't surprised by how bad the sequel was. But I read an interview with Stephen is it Conetti? I'm guessing Cognetti.
Or if you want to Americanize it, Cognetti.
Cognetti. I'm going to say Conetti. I apologize if that's the incorrect way of pronouncing your last name. I have a last name that nobody can pronounce, so no offense.
Nickel, right?
On you'vegotredionyou.com, a really cool interview, and this is before the sequel came out, and he makes a comment that says, I prefer horror that leaves a little mystery instead of wrapping all the answers up in a nice bow for us. Blair Witch was great in that respect. They trailblaze, but also managed to scare us with the unknown, which isn't done too often. And I thought to myself, then why did you have this like insane like extravaganza of Andrew Tully being like, let me tell you my plan at the end of the movie. Here's everything. All the dominoes are falling.
You know what's funny? Usually with horror movies, like if the first one's like outrageous and like people like it because it's kind of outrageous and silly, the second one they make it crazier and they make it more outrageous, and sometimes it works, most of the time it doesn't. And this one, you had like a decent first movie, and then the second one you're just like, how fucking crazy can we make this? How insane can we go down this rabbit hole?
Yeah, I think that there were some really good bits in there that they could have developed further, but like the talking about how the entire town just agrees that it was some kind of malfunction that happened. But they were explaining why, what was her name? Jessica was filming Jessica, why she was filming every single thing. And
Oh, Jessica Fox.
Transparency.
Oh my
Yeah.
God. That whole angle, and Jessica and Melissa, or no. Who was
Molly?
her? Oh man.
God.
All right. Busting in on you, Holly. Hell House LLC had some really solid actors. Hell House LLC, the Abaddon Hotel, Part 2. I want to know, like, how did this come to happen? Because you had some really bad actors in this one. It was, you would think that, oh, you got such a good, like, God, you got really good reviews from your first one. You got maybe some more money.
Molly and her boyfriend or husband, the camera guy, they should have died in the first 10 minutes of the movie.
Didn't need it. Didn't need any of the exposition. We don't need to see backstories. You're just like a person. And the whole time they were like, ugh.
That's what this whole sequel was. Backstory about every little detail.
Yeah.
And every question you had from the first one. It goes over everything with a fine-tooth comb.
The first movie gave you just enough to make you interested and give you the story and make it creepy. It's some kind of cult. They open the gates to hell. Like, there's enough there to let your imagination fill in the gaps for you. But unfortunately, the second movie filled in the gaps, and it didn't do a good job. Like,
Is that the like disease of like a sequel? You know, because there's so many sequels that feel like they have to explain it. Like Halloween 2, they're like, let's explain Michael Myers. Oh, all of a sudden he's related to, Laurie Strode. Like, let's start explaining things so that we can build a franchise out of this. Is that why?
I think it's just they want to... I don't think it's like... They want to latch on to the first movie somehow. So it's all those questions you have, now they're going to be answered kind of thing, to bring you to see it.
I think this was made intentionally as a trilogy or more because there is a third movie coming out this year. I think it's going to be released sometime around Halloween on Shudder, and it's called Hell House LLC, The Lake of Fire. They mention the Lake of Fire in the first one. In this one, when they are wrapping up the interview on Morning Mysteries, she's talking about, next time we're going to talk about, what was his name?
Oh, yeah, Russell Wynn.
Yeah, and he's receiving anonymous tapes that he's putting together. And I'm like, okay, well, that's what we're doing. That's where we're going for the next one.
It's they're taking the Ring vibe of like, here's weird tapes that end up in your possession, watch these tapes and see what happens.
How everything unfolds in this movie, it's so fucking dumb.
Yeah.
Have you ever seen the movie Monster House? Same premise. Except minus the gate of hell.
Wait, the cartoon?
Yeah, think about this. The basement opens up at the bottom of the house, so it's like the mouth of the house. Monster House. Where was everything? In the basement.
Well, everything spooky is always in the basement, okay?
Yeah.
What about the attic? Did you not see Hereditary?
Oh, yeah. Well, we're at the attic.
I do like if you strip it down, like the bare bones structure of this movie, story-wise, where it's this cult is like whatever demonic cult, they're bringing, however they're doing it, they're bringing people into this hotel. They're drawing people here by their demonic ways, their culty ways.
UPS.
Yeah. And the cult of UPS.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like stuff like you mentioned before, like The Ring. It's kind of like you become intertwined with it. You go there, you're part of it now. And I really liked it, but I don't know, just the writing of this story, it was so not on par with the original.
The idea that this house is a portal to the gates of hell, fine, Cool. Let's go with that, you know? And that the house constantly needs souls to fill its lake of fire. Awesome. I could totally get behind that, you know, like people being lured in, you know. I kind of was okay with the scenes where they showed people in like going in Facebook and like doing dares to go into this house, and the house and the doors being like, oh, it magically opens. But it's also like the way they did it was not scary, was not nearly as scary as the first one. Like some guy going in and standing there looking at a pair of legs on the stairs until his phone died. That's not scary.
I thought that was him standing on the stairs and someone was holding his phone.
Or even if it was, that's not a scary image, you know? The dudes who went to a fashion show in New York picked up a hitchhiker. I was like, okay, obviously this is someone trying to be creepy in the back seat. Like it was totally like, I'm easily scared, okay, y'all? Like I am easily scared, and when I'm not scared, you are doing a really bad job.
Yeah, that
like
scene with the I'm sorry.
Yeah. But like where she's in the back seat, I'm like, I could tell it's someone just sitting in the back seat being like, no, I already checked in, you know?
Yeah, you know, it was the idea of that is scary, and the execution was very poor.
Yeah, super poor, yeah.
You know, you have that's the classic hitchhiker, and then you turn around when you get to your destination and they're gone.
Or like these guys, first of all, I was like, okay, you guys are creeped out, drop her off, but like they like followed her in, and like how did they know she was going in the basement? I was just like, you guys lost me. Like I'm so not scared by this, and I know everything that's going to happen. And again, like I am very easily scared.
If I pick up a hitchhiker and they run out of the car into an abandoned hotel, I'm not following them.
Fuck no. Oh my God.
Or if I walk up to an abandoned hotel, I'm like, I'm going to go check this out, and the door magically opens, I'm not going in. Even at the end of the movie, when they start revealing every little detail, I was so done with it all at that point. Like, I couldn't even get to that, like, before, you know, that extra 25-minute long scene monologue where they're explaining everything. I was already done with the movie. Like, I was just like, God, I hope this ends soon.
Yeah.
It was just, it felt like it dragged on. It felt like nothing had a point. And I think the director just got a big head and was just like, we can do this, and we can do this, and we can do that, and this will be scary.
I thought it was pretty cool and creepy that when they were finished with the interview on the TV show, that the assistant or whatever, she goes up to her and Susie, and she says that they got a call from the politician and said that he was sorry for missing it. And she was like, what are you talking about? I just interviewed him. And she was like, oh no, he's been stuck there for 2 hours.
But they already did that in the first one, so it was like that trick was already done. You know, they did it again with Jessica Fox, where they're like, oh, you got to choose who dies. And you're like, oh my God. And again, here's a ghost being interviewed. And you're like, oh, this guy is actually Andrew Tully. Like, again, like, let me just say, I am a sucker for this shit. And I saw that a mile away. You know, it was like, oh, we're doing that again. It was like redundant. You know, it was like they were using, they were reusing things that worked in the first one. And with a sequel, you have to do either the same thing, but better or more, or you gotta like give us something new to work with. But if you're just like recycling the old things, it's gonna be a total miss. And it was a total miss.
Yeah, and the scariest thing about Andrew Tully in this movie was his dialogue. It was atrocious. Like,
it was
this
really
25-minute long dialogue scene, and it is just going in circles. It goes nowhere. I guess it's a lake of fire, maybe. It's just going in over and over again.
A lot of domino talk.
Oh my god, so much.
And that character wasn't scary at all. He was just like a dude who looked like his skin was melting off.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, like seriously, like everyone else looks fine, and I mean, maybe was that part of his effect? But I was like, this actor does not look this bad in real life, but in the movie, he literally looked like his skin was like melting off.
Oh, and the fucking bringing back the lady from the first one, the first interviewer lady from the first one, and with her eye, that whole missing eye thing. What was that? And then bringing him as a kid, like at the beginning of the movie, where that one guy is like playing the piano as a kid. It's like,
what was the point of that?
That
I mean,
he was like, oh, the Abaddon Hotel will open October 7th, and then he's like, oh, everything is fine. I didn't say anything. Like, I was like, that you didn't need that. You didn't need that.
I guess that points to one of those dominoes that have been set up, but we don't need that.
Well, it goes back to people having to overcomplicate sequels. It's like, okay, now I have to like tie up all these loose ends, and it's like, no, you don't tie up any of the loose ends. Keep them loose. Keep us guessing as watchers. Like, I don't like, let me figure that out in my head. And I mean, I don't know, like, are people like, I didn't read any sort of forum or any information on what did people ask, or what were people saying after the first haunted house or Hell House LLC. Were people like, I want these questions answered? You know, it's like, is that something that the producers wanted to fulfill?
No. I personally think the first movie, they had low budget. They had a very small script, more with action than dialogue. I imagine a lot of the dialogue was ad-libbed or just done right there on the scene. Felt a little more natural. Second movie, they got more budget. So he decided to write, which we can see he's not a good writer. I mean, all the dialogue is atrocious in the film. I think he just got... He didn't expect the success of the first movie, because the movie didn't do bad. It did well. I mean, it's considered like... It got praised really well. And then the second one, he just got a big head, I think. And it was just like, we're going to tie in the story and bring it all about Andrew Tully. And we're going to scare the shit out of people. The scariest thing, besides that monologue, was that explosion in the basement.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, the CGI.
I watched this when it first came out last year, and when I watched it again, I totally forgot that happened. I think I had the same reaction of, what the fuck is this?
And then you think the movie's going to end right there. No, you got another 30 minutes. You got another 30 minutes on this roller coaster.
Going along with the theme of like Andrew Tully collecting souls, beautiful. Let's fucking do that, you know? Yes, send in a documentary crew, have them all killed. Like, obviously that's what people want to see, but like, don't give this documentary crew a backstory, because nobody cares that they put senators in jail. And like, don't give Andrew Tully a fucking monologue explaining
exactly
what the hotel is. Just don't do the whole like the guy Mitchell. This is like my biggest issue with the sequel is he was all like, the hotel is dangerous. It's bad. Like, I watched when people go in, there are YouTube and Facebook and all these live streaming videos of people going in and never coming out. Why the fuck are you going to go in for an hour into the basement and look through boxes? It's like, go in, get the boxes, bring them out, and we're done with this. Like, this guy apparently has studied Hell House LLC, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to go in and spend an hour in there. Sir, I want to be like, sorry, Stephen Conetti, you lost me. I'm done. I'm like, anything you do, I'm so like, I don't believe it.
Okay, let's just say they kept everything and then they got to Andrew Tully. We didn't need a Dr. Evil monologue about his entire plan for everything. Like, that right, if you just said, I'm Andrew Tully, this is the lake of fire, I'm going to throw everyone in. Great.
Right?
It would have had a better ending.
Right?
Yeah, you're exactly right. It felt like a bad guy monologue where the good guy gets the chance to,
yes!
Do something, but nothing. You didn't do anything. You just sat there and listened.
You told me everything I need to know in the first one. Andrew Tully was a satanic cult leader. They performed in the basement. That's all I need to know.
Everybody died.
Now scare
Perfect.
me. Yep. Great. And I expect in the sequel, everyone to die.
Seriously, it should just be as simple as like a Roach Motel. You check in, you don't check out.
Yeah.
There was one line that I gave a hearty chuckle from. It was when they were trying to get out of the house or the hotel, and they reached the stairs to go upstairs, and I forgot who said it, but they're like, we can't go up there. Mitchell's like, why? Because I saw your documentary.
Yes! And even at the end when Jessica Fox was like, why didn't you tell us this was evil? Why didn't you tell us this was going to go on? I was like, baby girl, you watched the documentary. You saw the YouTube and Facebook and live streaming videos. What the fuck did you think was gonna happen? Okay, miss, I put senators in jail. This is again why the sequel like totally lost me.
For awful as Molly was, she was the smart one to want to stay by the car.
Yeah. And one thing I hated that they brought everyone back. Alex and Max sitting at the table. Melissa upstairs on the phone talking to her mommy. Like, why? They're already in the house.
I didn't mind Melissa upstairs. I thought that was actually a good little...
That was a good scare, yeah.
Bringing Mac and Alex back made 0 sense. And like, I understand the scene where they were like, well, Alex met with like Andrew Tully. He was drawn in by him magically. And like, that's why. And then why have them sitting there? Why those two? Why not everybody else? Like, why? Like, they should have just ended it.
Yeah, that made no sense.
Because the budget.
And then at the end, why include that additional scene of them sitting in some diner where we still get no more answers? It's them being like, what did you do? What did you do? Oh, everyone's showing up here now. Again, like, we still don't have any clear answers other than Alex invested money from the company and lost it all or some bullshit.
Why are we still focusing on Alex and Mac?
Yeah.
At all? They're dead. I don't care. Like, we saw how they died in the first one.
It felt like they were running with the idea of how the hotel draws you in, but they focused way too much on Alex. Like, why was... I mean, I know he's, main character of the first one, but... Nobody else got, like, a special meeting with Tully 6 months prior. They just got these random videos that came anonymously.
Even though he's the main character of the first one, there's no character development about Alex whatsoever.
Yeah.
So none of us care about him. At all. If anything, I think he's a douche because he put all his company's money into this stupid fucking building and didn't tell his partner about it.
Yeah.
And then forced all these people to sleep in there. But, his friends are ride and die, I guess.
Did either of you catch a nod to The Shining in the very beginning of the movie?
No.
In the very, very beginning, it opens with the interview with that woman, and she's talking about how her son went to the hotel and he went missing. So her name was Wendy Mallett.
Oh.
And her son's name is Jackson. So I was like, oh, I bet it was Wendy and Jack Torrance. And because in the book, he uses a croquet mallet and not an axe. So I was like, oh, little nod to The Shining there. That was clever.
You're giving Steven a lot of credit on creativity there.
The general consensus in the community is that this one is definitely not as good. It is nowhere near being on par with the first one.
What do you want to rate this? Melting Man?
Dominoes?
Ooh. Let the dominoes keep falling.
All right. I, unfortunately, am going to give this 1 out of 5 dominoes. It was very disappointing. You would think that getting more backstory for something, especially if it's supernatural in nature, would feel fulfilling, but this just became confusing. It raised more questions, and there were no characters that I liked in this one. So yeah, unfortunately, I'm going with 1 out of 5. Steph?
I'm gonna give it 1.5 out of 5 dominoes because I really enjoy the ideas that Stephen Conetti has, and the idea of someone being in a satanic cult and killing themselves inside a hotel, and this being like a super haunted entity where it needs to constantly collect souls is such a cool idea. But executing the sequel was not done well at all.
I'm going to give this movie half a domino. I'm not going to be as kind as you two were. You had a villain named Andrew Tully that you could have kept in the dark a little longer because he's probably your biggest scary part of the movie. The satanic cult leader who's doing all this stuff and luring people to a house to be killed. And you killed him. You didn't kill him, but you killed the character because the dialogue he has was bad. He revealed every card he has and every plan he has for the future of Hell House. It was just not good. The movie felt really long. There was 1 or 2 good scares in there, but overall it just wasn't a great movie. And I think it was the success of the first one may have got to his head a little bit, and he went for a bigger budget and a more story-driven idea with characters that had dialogue, and it just didn't work well. I will see the third one, hoping for the best, that it comes out, better than the sequel, because sometimes, the third one redeems itself. But yeah, half a domino for me.
All right. Well, both of these are on Shudder. And like I said before, there is a DVD of the director's cut that you can find. And yeah, hopefully the third one will pick up the momentum from the first one, and it'll feel like a complete thing rather than being more confusing.
I hope it takes the path of sleepaway camp, where it gets even just more ridiculous, and they bring in an
protecting myself. I want this recorded for insurance.
Nonsense.
You mean for blackmail?
Additional house.
Yeah.
No, Alex, I want it on the record that I had nothing to do with this.
Oh no, he's got a guest house.
I get it.
A she shed.
Yeah.
Great.
Well,
Mac
thank
had
you
nothing
everybody
to do
for
with this.
listening to
Just tell me what
our
happened.
first time
It's
that we
fine. You're
reviewed
way
a
out
movie
now,
and
okay?
a sequel.
A way out?
Yeah.
Hope
Alex,
you
you lost
enjoyed,
everything.
and
How the hell do we have a way
we
out?
would love
Have you
if
been to
you
Rockland County?
subscribed and check
Little
us
town
out
called
on
Abaddon,
horrormelee.com.
just north of the GW, right
Send
along
us
the
an
Hudson.
email at
Why would I
horrormelee
have ever been there?
at
There's a hotel there
gmail.com.
called the Abaddon Hotel, and it's
And give us a
completely
review.
vacant.
Let us know what you thought of this episode. Tell us what you like.
What do you want to start a
What
bed
you
and
don't
breakfast?
like, what you
No,
want to
Mac,
hear.
that's
any
where Hell
movie
House is gonna get a second
suggestions,
life.
And also be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. You can hear us on Spotify, iTunes, Stitcher,
And Castbox.
Castbox.
Yep.
I always want to say Mixbox. It's Castbox.